Hey, third grade! Okay, so today we are going to start our new unit, which is on Zentangles. And I think you're going to really like it. So you've probably never heard of a Zentangle before. A Zentangle is an abstract design created by lots of different patterns. But a Zentangle pattern individually is when you take a type of shape or line and you repeat it over and over and over again to create this really intricate sort of pattern. And Zentangle art is usually happens when you combine all of those things. So our focus for this week is going to be just practicing some different types of Zentangle patterns, coming up with some of our own and being creative, and then next time we'll start to combine it all into a piece of art that we will then eventually turn into a piece of mixed media art. So all you need for today is either, I have my sketchbook here. If you don't have a sketchbook, you can just use any sort of piece of paper that you have available. And I'm going to use a pen. Typically with Zentangles we use pens or Sharpies, but if you are a person who sometimes has a hard time, if you make a little bit of a mistake, I recommend using a pencil. Or if you like to kind of play with things, a pencil is also great. So either a pencil or a pen, a piece of paper. Let's get started. So, down here, so on my sketch paper, I'm going to just draw some different squares or circles for myself. I'm going to go squares today. And in each square, I'm going to put a new Zentangle pattern. These are called tiles in Zentangle. It's a good way of figuring out different patterns before it gets all mixed together and a little crazy. So, I'm up just a little bit. So I'm going to fill my paper with squares. They do not have to be perfect at all. Sound effects are not necessary, but if you like them, then go for it. Alright, so I filled it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So go for between 15 and 20 squares, however many you can fit. And I'm just going to title this page Zentangle. I'll write my name on it, because you should always put your name on your paper. Alright. So on Canvas, I have given you a couple, a lot of actually, examples of different Zentangles to try. There's a document in the same module where you found the link to this video. But we're going to start with some of the more simple ones. So the first one I want to do is I want to kind of show you how a Zentangle can often start with a very basic pattern. Like maybe you remember doing these last year in second grade when we studied pattern, just some basic patterns like a stripe. But Zentangle is going to take it a step further, and it's going to add details to the stripes. And what I mean by that is it might be that I have these diagonal stripes, but then in between the stripes or a zigzag pattern like this. So I'm thinking about having these shapes that go in between. That would be a way of making that a little bit more intricate. Now, if I could keep it like this, that would be fine, or I could even take it a step further and I could shade. And we're just sketching today, so our shading doesn't have to be perfect craftsmanship. It's more, we're just getting our ideas on the paper today. That is the point. And notice how I'm taking my pattern all the way to the corner of each paper. So I did this checkerboard sort of pattern that got me this. So you can shade or not, it's up to you. If I'm going too fast at any point, you are welcome to pause the video, just like we do when we do Art for Kids Hub or anything like that. You can pause the video, work at your own pace today. You have an hour for art. My recommendation is to maybe set a timer or look at the clock And just give yourself this hour to enjoy art. Don't get distracted with anything else. And then when the timer's up, you can put this away. Or if you love it and you don't have anything else to do, you can keep working on it. Alright, so that's Zentangle pattern number 1. So if we're staying with this idea of taking a basic pattern and then making it more intricate, something a little bit more detailed than it normally would be, the next pattern I'm going to do is I'm going to do some wavy lines. It's okay if they're not perfectly matching. And I'm going to do what are called contour lines in between them. So I started with the basic wavy line, but instead of stopping there, I'm filling them with these sort of rainbow-shaped contour lines, and I'm going to change the direction of the rainbow in every other section. So this is getting us to start to see our art in a new way. Zentangles are also called Zentangle because Zen is actually this idea of being mindful or being calm. Maybe you've heard it before. And so this is actually a mindfulness practice that a lot of adults will do when they're feeling stressed. You can do a Zentangle because you kind of just get lost in the repetition of all of the lines. Like you're doing these lines and these shapes over and over and over again. So it's actually very calming to sit and work on a Zentangle. So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed or stressed, this is a great thing to do to just sort of calm your brain down and get you focused again. Okay, so now we've kind of gotten this idea of how you take a stripe, but then you add something to it to make it more interesting, make it more special. So now we're going to kind of go with the same idea, but with something a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to do this fish scale sort of pattern here. And all of the patterns I'm doing are on the document that I put on Canvas. So you can look at a finished product of it. You can kind of see where I got the inspiration. So I've started with this fish scale pattern, which is basically how I did it here is a U shape over and over and over again. And then when I went to do a second row, I went from the tip of the U to the tip of the next U so that they kind of are a little bit off. And now I'm going to put a U shape on the inside of each U. And I'm going to color in the stripes. So I'm seeing also, I'm thinking about positive and negative space. Positive space is the space that's at the front, negative space is the stuff in the back. So when I'm playing with this idea of shading certain shapes and not shading other shapes, I'm bringing certain things to the eyes of the people who are looking at my art that they may not otherwise notice. Artists get to kind of trick people into noticing specific things about their work by their use of shading, color, shadows, highlights, all that sort of stuff. Alright, so that's another Zentangle. Let's see. Ooh. So let's keep playing with this idea of positive and negative space. If I fill this box with polka dots, think about going all the way to the edge, which means that some shapes might not all the way fit inside my tile, and that is okay. I'm going to do all sorts of different shapes. I can even play, and I'm going to do this with a color because why not? If you have a marker, you can join me in that. If not, you can just use your pen or your pencil. And I'm actually going to color in my negative space, which is the space around my circles, so that I get this black and white polka dot pattern. And so part of why I switched to a marker is just for the sake of time, because I can color a little faster with a marker. But you can absolutely do this with your pen or pencil as well, because we have been practicing good craftsmanship all year. We know how to fill a space with any sort of material. Notice how I kind of trace the shape I'm going around first. That kind of helps me avoid coloring inside the lines. Okay, so there's another Zentangle. Let's see, what's next? Ooh, all right, let's do one more simple one, and then I'm going to do a more complicated one. So, Zentangle also likes to pull from natural shapes, think like flowers, leaves, things like that. So something I can do for a Zentangle shape is I can build, I'm going to do this flower situation. So I'm going to do these football shapes that are they kind of naturally go around each other because sides are so rounded. So it's like a football shape, but I don't see the end of the football because I'm staying inside of my tile. And then from just a little off of the points, I'm going to do, it's like a pointy rainbow maybe is a better way to think about it. I'm going to fill the space in between with the same sort of shape. So a lot of Zentangles, you're echoing something over and over and over again. And I'm just going to keep going until I've filled my space. Notice how when I go off the page, kind of messed up there, that's okay. It's a low stress activity, so if you mess up, it's fine. I'm just filling the space, trying to alternate it, but the thing that matters is that I'm alternating this, it's growing and growing, and I have this feeling of echoing this leaf shape all the way through. Awesome. So I could leave it there, but if we're thinking about taking things a step further, I'm kind of going to do an opposite sort of thing that I did up here, and I'm going to give the centers of them, now they kind of look like eyes. I didn't really think about that. That's okay. It's going to look cool anyway. So notice how I'm using the idea of overlapping to make these feel like there's space and there's depth in my pattern. So even though I'm not drawing anything specific, it's more just this idea of lines and shapes. I'm going in and I'm filling it and giving it this sense of depth, of deepness, of space and dimension. And I'm just kind of, my eyes get a little, it gets a little dizzying sometimes, but in general, it's really calm to do. Are you still drawing along with me? Good. Sometimes the ones that take the longest, Zentangle kind of forces us to have patience because the ones that take the longest are typically the prettiest ones. They're the most rewarding. And this is such a good brain exercise for us, not just to relax, but also for us to start to see how shapes relate to each other, how to use overlapping in our shapes. All that good stuff. Ignoring my email right now. I'm just focusing on my Zentangle. Feel like I need one right there. All right, that looks done to me. Okay, let me see. There's another one here I see that has some swirlies. So I'm going to draw a few just sort of random swirly swirls. You can kind of build them off of each other. And I can just leave it at basic swirls. I can add lines into them. I like to kind of just keep building them off of each other until I've run out of space. So I kind of take existing curves and I trace them, and I just kind of keep adding swirls. Now don't be discouraged if yours doesn't look exactly like mine. Remember, Miss Kent, that's me. I practice art a lot, and so some things that look sort of simple for me may take you some practice. And believe me, anything you see me doing right now, I have had to practice before I could get it exactly right. So you just have to keep working. And so now I'm kind of going into smaller swirls. Until I've kind of filled space, and I can kind of take a step back from it and say, yeah, that looks pretty done to me, but I think I need a couple more swirls. I need one right here. I'm going to kind of go off the page there. All right, I feel like that one's good. All right, let's see if there's any more I want to show you. I could do this forever and ever. I really could. I love to Zentangle. All right, we're going to do a couple more with this idea of contour lines and sort of giving this illusion of depth and space. So I'm going to do these sort of parenthesis marks. I'm kind of going at an angle. I'm going to do a line down the middle, and I'm just kind of got these parenthesis marks happening. And then I'm going to notice how they're kind of like stripes. And similar to what we did up here, but closer together, I'm going to pick an angle, and in each angle, I'm going to change direction. So I went down in this one, so in this one I'm going to go up. This one I went down, so I'm going to fill the whole one with up, down, oh, no, it's more of an up because we kind of changed direction. That's good. So you can see this kind of fills it. It's almost hairy looking, or like a leaf. That's another thing you can think about is hash marks and how you can use different directions of hash marks. It's things like this. To create different sorts of visuals. So to kind of show you what that means, I'm going to do another sort of scalloped one. So I'm going to build a basic fish scale shape here. So I went from the top of the rainbow to the bottom of the rainbow, like that, until I felt like my space was filled. Okay. And I'm going to go and give each of them a stripe. So So watch what happens. I'm going to do vertical. Vertical is up and down. Hash marks in this stripe. So I'm going vertical, vertical. And before I do the next one, I'm going to give each of these a solid color center, just to kind of, sometimes when you're doing things that have lots of hash marks like that, if you have something that's a solid color, it sort of grounds the pattern and makes it feel a little bit less dizzy. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm kind of going in and I'm drawing a rainbow shape in there, filling it in, rainbow shape, filling it in. And I'm actually, before I do what my big sort of crazy idea is, I'm gonna just darken this line and go through, and anything I do to one, I'm gonna do to the others. Darken. Alright, so I used vertical hash marks, and I actually really like this pattern as is, but I'm going to make my point and finish it out the way I was originally planning. So in this space, I'm going to do horizontal hash marks. So you can kind of see how the direction of my marks can really make a difference. Also, the space between my marks can change how they look on a page. So even though I've used the same color pen this whole time, I've achieved 3 different values. Values are the lightness or darkness of a color. So I've got a value in there. Alright, I'm going to walk you through one more, and then I'm going to let you use your last boxes to try to design your own Zentangle using some of these ideas or using the ideas I linked for you on Canvas. So let's see. Okay, so there's one here that has like this overlapping circle situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some solid black or gray if you're using a pencil, or whatever color you're using. Maybe you're using a blue or purple pen. It doesn't matter today. I'm going to fill and do about that many. So I'm leaving a good amount of space in between my circles. And what I'm going to do is called concentric circles, when you have a little circle that's like surrounded by more circles, like a bullseye. I'm going to draw a concentric circle around each one. Remember, Zentangle takes time, so if you're trying to rush your Zentangle, you're not going to like the outcome. If you're having a hard time making Zentangles that look really cohesive, it's probably because you're rushing. Alright, so I'm gonna, we're about to start overlapping. That's good. That's what I want to have happen. Alright, so I have, each one has 2 concentric outsides. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick some circles to kind of focus on for right now. So I'm gonna pick this one, and this one. And I'm going to only give them some extras right now. And notice that when I run into another circle, I'm just stopping. I go, wee, oop, running in, gotta stop. There we go. Kind of wide. I'm going to fill it with the middle. And then I'm just kind of going to start echoing. I'm going to look at these curves and I'm going to think about it like an echo, and I'm just going to keep echoing these different lines until I've filled my space. So here's some Zentangle examples. Again, I have so many more links to you on Canvas. You can also just Google Zentangle, and there's so many ideas. This is an entire just sort of world of art that you've unlocked. And so your goal for today is, this video is about 25, 26 minutes. So you have another about 30 minutes of art class today. So set a timer for about 30 minutes and see how many other Zentangles you can create. See how you can use shading and hash marks and filling in certain things, and this idea of positive and negative space. All of these different sort of things that Zentangle is playing with, and see what other things you can come up with. We're going to be working on these. Here, let me show you my face. We're going to be working on these for the next few weeks. So this is supposed to be a calm activity. It's supposed to be fun, but it's also going to work your art muscles out a little bit. It's going to work your eyes and having you see details, having you start to think about design and space and shape in a new way. And so for the rest of your art time today, maybe set a timer for 30 minutes and just see what you can come up with. Just play with it. Let yourself get lost in the art. Don't try to do something else while you draw. Just sit and draw and see what you can come up with. So I hope you enjoyed this, and next week we will continue into our first step of our project. Have a great week. Bye, guys.